10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2.
Drag racing fan, Monday morning racer here. It is the Competition Plus Power Hour. I've come down back into the state of North Carolina from a good long trip to the far northeast, there for the New England Nationals in Epping, New Hampshire. 14 hours. It was a good ride, though. But for the ride tonight, I've got a partner riding along with me, and that's my man Slammin Sam. And if my mouse will work, I will bring him on air. Let me get it going here. Oh, Sam.
Yeah.
There you are.
What's up, Lee? Lee.
Good,
How's it going, man? Yeah, I feel refreshed. I didn't go to drag racing this past weekend. Got to see my little sister graduate. Got to hang, chill out, and be myself down in the California area, seeing family and friends. It was good. It was refreshing. I missed one of our friends, Darren from Hot Rod ENT. We were supposed to link up, but I was spending time with family, got caught up in things. But, man, does it feel good to be back on a Tuesday night talking racing, man. Just
that's
pure
right, talking drag racing, man. And look, got two great guests on, I think. One that many of you may have never heard of. We kind of were both looking at, well, who's this guy? I love those conversations. Dave Davies, He owns Constant Aviation. That's a new title sponsor with Factory Stock, and he's going to be competing himself. So definitely looking forward to hearing from him. And the second guest is who?
Some guy, some Brian guy or something. He supposedly he works for NHRA. I've heard his name once or twice. Some Brian, I think like Lohnes or something like that. I don't know, Lee.
Right,
do you know who that guy is?
That guy.
So hey,
that guy.
Supposedly he used to work for Bobby Bennett, so hopefully maybe he's got some juicy info for us. You know,
we might get actual dirt tonight. Yeah, we might get actual dirt. That's right. Well, we got several folks chiming in. Lou, he already chimed in before the show even started, and thank you for watching. Tom, thank you for watching. Stan, having a great night already. Looking forward to two great guests. Looking forward to the conversation around drag racing. Folks, we'll have Jeff Arend on. As always, put in the comments what you would like to talk about. We may very well talk about that. Sam, in the world of drag racing, a great yet also, I would say, sobering and somber weekend in the world of drag racing.
Yeah, man. Yeah, let's just get the bad news out of the way right now. And here it goes. I'm going to use my West Buck moment. I'm getting goosebumps. But we love drag racing. Drag racing is high intensity. It's emotion. It's filled with passion, different things like this. And my heart goes out to Dragway 42 in Ohio. There was a shooting there this past weekend. I don't know all the full details, but when it comes to this sport, when it comes to motorsports, there's a lot of emotion, guys and girls. We get it. But there's no reason for violence. We need to try and keep that out of our sport as much as possible. I mean, like I said, to the people that were involved in that, I hope whatever gets worked out is worked out, but let's try to keep this sport as positive as possible. I mean, our sport's on the rise. It's on the grind. We're moving in the right trajectory. So let's continue to stay positive and be out there and be a family, man. This affects more than just the people that were involved in it. This affects this track and everything else. So, like I said, let's try to move forward in the correct way and keep violence out of it. If you want violence, man, take it somewhere else. You know, leave your car in the shop, throw some tools, go back to the pits and do something there. But don't ever take it out on anyone else. That we don't need it in this sport.
We definitely don't need anybody taking anyone other's life or attempting to look. I love drag racing. It's important. It's people's livelihoods. And maybe occasionally someone might need to be taught a lesson, if you know what I mean, but a life lesson of ending it, no, I don't think that's applicable nearly at any moment. That's a whole other discussion. But yes, definitely sad for Dragway 42. And hopefully, sadly, Sam, it seems like when something like this happens, there begins to be a domino effect of, oh, well, we're not going to have that type of event come back, or, oh, there's going to be new restrictions, or, oh, you can't bring this into the track. And what happens with one bad apple affects all those that were following the rules.
Exactly. Yeah, and like I said, I mean, you know, if you get angry, we've seen it from the NHRA level all the way down. If you get angry with a guy, you know, now I always say I want to see your raw emotion. I mean, Steve Torrance is a perfect example of that. There's been others that, you know, show their raw emotions, but like you said, to take one's or to attempt to take a life or anything like that is definitely not needed. But with, I guess, bad news, like you said, Lee, there's a lot of great news that has been popping up around the sports. I mean, you know, you want to talk about new sponsor, Stan brings it up. Josh Hart got a new sponsor in the sport. Justin Ashley brings on a grill company to the sport, you know, so maybe when we're at the track next time, Lee, we can, you know, have some good food off the grill with that. So, I mean, there's a lot of continuously good things. What else? I mean, Lee, if there's anything else that you would like to talk about, what else do you think are some topics to talk about?
Well, man, look, always good to hear new partners coming into the sport. You know, in particular, Barbecue Nation is one you're talking about there with Justin Ashley. It's seasoning for your meats on the grill. Always good to have some tasty meats. Hopefully be able to try that at the next event and have some Barbecue Nation meat seasoning on whatever the Ashley Camps got. Cruise Petragon had a new associate sponsor come on, a petroleum company. That was it's good to hear. It's good to hear any partners stepping up or coming on board. And I think we're going to start seeing more of that as we go further into 2021, and people will start getting back to marketing and find different ways of marketing. And I think drag racing is a great avenue to do that. You know, I put out earlier today on whynotdragracing.com the social media feeds, 3 photos: a photo of ZMAX Dragway, a photo of the stands at Epping, New Hampshire, which, by the way, were full. They were full. And a photo of Epping, New Hampshire, of what the track is like. We go from an impressive facility like ZMAX to Epping, New Hampshire, that is not an impressive facility, but they know who they are and they work it right. It's a homely, local, old school feel. And I think it's a beautiful thing in drag racing that through drag racing, you can market your company locally, regionally, nationally, and even internationally. And you're able to cover all of that because NHRA drag racing in particular is seen by the rest of the world as the pinnacle of drag racing. People in Great Britain and Europe, they look to the NHRA as the highest level. People in Australia look at the NHRA as the highest level. So you can market your brand within NHRA and cover every base, literally, and tap into fan bases that other sporting events, in particular other motorsports, are not tapping into. So it's always good to hear new partners coming in, and I think drag racing is a great place to do it, Sam, and expose a brand to, well, effectively the world.
No, and I mean, it's a great way. And like you said, it's a market that we can advertise not just locally, not just in, you know, Norwalk, not just in Texas and in, you know, New Hampshire or Vegas, let's just say. I mean, we can go, NHRA travels enough to where people can see it. And you hear it a lot. And I was just watching the Caruso show and they said it too. Everyone's now getting on the same page. Let's thank the people that continue to support our sport, but not only continue, let's try and bring in those new markets. You know, we talked about it last week on the show of the different, you know, cars and different schemes and everything like that we've seen over the years. So let's try to bring some back, some of that old stuff that we've seen and we loved, and let's continue to market ourselves into new territories. And I think, with that guy that we're going to have on later, some Brian, like I said, that Brian guy that you keep mentioning, maybe we can talk to him about something like that, as he's seen it from the outside looking in and now from the inside looking out. So I think there's a lot to talk about with all that. There's even more to talk about. Do we talk about 153? Is he back? Are we continuing to go in the right direction? Oh, wait. Are we not talking about John Force yet? Sorry.
No, let's do it, man. Folks, if you were out there and you were wondering whether John Force is back or not, I think he has resoundingly said, yes, he's back. Matter of fact, we are at the point, Sam, I think we would develop the natural question of how long can it last? And I will answer that. I think it can last and ride through the rest of the season. The man has got a swagger to him that I have not seen personally in a long time. So I think John Force Racing, they're going to be right there at the end. And he's going to be tough and great competition throughout the year. And it would not shock me. I would not be shocked at the end of the year that John Force has 5 to 6 wins in the championship. It would not shock me.
No, and that's one of those things, where it's like, okay, he may have started rough, but now he's back. It like we've talked about it many a times before and after the show, Lee. When was that ball going to get rolling? And then once it started rolling, how long was it going to take until it just continued to gain momentum? And we're starting to see that. And you're starting to see it with other people too, other racers. But, I mean, it's impressive. 153 wins, man. Like that, I mean, like what at this point, Lee, if you were in his shoes, what's the goal now? Are you going for 155? Are you going for 160? Like what is that next? If you're John Force, what would you say that next number is that it's like, man, I have to hit this number?
As dangerous as it is to contemplate the mind of John Force, I do think that it's 200. And here is why. He has joked about it, but yet John seems to be that individual. Even if he's joking about it, even if he is being a little sarcastic about it, there's some serious tones underlining it. He is mentioned about chasing after Richard Petty and getting 200 wins. Even said that when he got to 100 and talking with it to Austin Coyle about getting 200 wins. So I think for him, that's out there. And for an individual that has stated many times, I have nothing else to do, this is my life, he's going, I think, to try to do whatever is necessary to get that done.
But do you think it's a long-term goal? Like, I know there's a long-term goal. We all know that, right? But do you think it's like, okay, let's take when they were at 145, was the goal to get to 150 or was it to get to 160? You know what I mean? Like, it's just like someone losing weight or, someone gaining weight. Perfect example, yourself and myself. I'm trying to put on the LBs and you're trying to lose the LBs. So it's like, I know my goal number. Like, if I can reach that number, I'm happy. But then as soon as you get close to that, you're like, ooh, should I switch it up? Should I change it? So I'm kind of, I'm wondering about that. And then in the other sense, let's talk about Greg Anderson. I mean, he's marching right up the ladder too. Are we going to be able to keep him out of final round for, the rest of the year? Because week in and week out, he's proven it.
Right. I would say right now the most dominant car in pro stock is Greg Anderson, and he is driving exceptionally well once again. I think he is hungry to pass Warren in the win category. You
said it. You told me I couldn't say it last week, but now you're gonna say it. I see how you are.
He's there.
You guys, you have to watch Lee because he wants to be the first to say it on the show. Because last week he's like, "Don't you say it? Don't you say it?" And now this week he wants to be the first guy to say it. So just continue to watch Lee. He's sneaky.
Yes, I admit that I'm sneaky, but I think it means more to Greg Anderson passing Warren Johnson than he might even be able to verbalize. Honestly, I really think it does. You know, basically a mentor guy who gave him the opportunity, even though there might even be some animosity at these days now long gone from the start. It's big, and it's big in the sport too that Greg Anderson passes WJ. So it's going to happen, and I think he wants to do that and win a championship again. And even though there is this youth movement, I think there is definitely, and I believe we were able to get that sense from when we interviewed him, that he is determined to show that he's still out there and still is capable.
Yeah, and, you know, everyone's talking about, okay, is this his farewell? And, you know, it's, let's stop aging. Let's stop putting the bookmarker on things a little too early. Let's just let them ride out, let it all play out and see what happens.
Right. Well, look, man, we need to take a break and bring Jeff Arend on. But before I do, I want to bring up this comment. Mark Beaver says, "Hey Lee, Mark, how you doing? I do want to give a shout out. He is the owner of Beaver Motorsports. They qualified for the first time for NHRA Pro Stock with Richie Stevens at the wheel. And folks, it was not just, hey, being number 16 in a 16-car field. They qualified 11th and were actually 9th on the board at one point. So congratulations again, Mark, and Richie as well."
Before we go to this commercial, I want to see this one here. Joel, what do you want to do in drag racing? How do you get into it? That's a broad question. Please let us know in the comments or PM myself, Slammin Sam, Outlaw Performance ENT, or PM Lee, the Monday Morning Racer, or put it in the comments of what you want to do in drag racing. That way we can fully answer that question. And Lee, we're getting time for Jeff Arend to come on, huh? I think we might have an email. For him. So.
Oh, really? Oh, that's good news. That's good news. Well, let's take a break. A word from Competition Plus Apparel. Remember, folks, you can get Scotty Cannon old school T-shirts. There's also a new Funny Car T-shirt coming. Saw that from Bobby Bennett today. Just cool swag from Competition Plus Apparel. Go get you some.
Get your CompetitionPlus.com apparel today. Whether it's our nitro-burning funny car design or the vibrant door slammer design, we have the swag to show you are always in the know. Get yourself a hat too. And we know not everyone enjoys wearing a mask, but if you must wear one, at least wear a good-looking one. Check out the new CompetitionPlusApparel.com for the latest from the place where you have trusted for your news on the internet for over 2 decades.
The jeweler.
Slammin Sam.
Yeah. Hey, I've got people now, just because of things going on, I've got people that walk up to me, Slammin Sam! And I'm like, unlike you, I actually stop and speak to them. So did anyone call you that this week at the races?
I know someone that did. He didn't even turn around.
I knew it was you, that's why. But I got a couple of cold beers out of it, so people are actually watching the show, so that's good.
What?
There we go.
Yeah. Are you serious?
Yeah, oh yeah.
Lee, are you buying him cold beer to make him feel good about himself?
No, I'm not. He brings enough of his own, I'm sure.
So yeah, Epping, I mean, great weather. Friday the crowd's not quite as good, but Saturday and Sunday, I mean, you couldn't even walk down the pit alley. The place was jammed, and the fans there are just a little bit different. Like, they're real motorsports enthusiasts. They love their drag racing. I love racing there. It's a great place, cool facility, kind of old school, and definitely with some good runs there. Going into that a little bit, I'm gonna bag on NHRA a little tiny bit. So the last couple of races, you run on the Friday night deal and it gets cool. And I don't know who's doing their track prep, but it's almost too good. And as a fan, I mean, the whole funny car session, there were 3 funny cars that made it down the track. And in Top Fuel, there were 2 funny cars that made it down the track. And if you know anything about our 2 top fuel cars made down the track, and these are good cars. I mean, a lot of high horsepower, like badass cars. On their track prep, you want to run on Friday night, they got to learn not to prep it as good. It's not a fun show for the fans when people are shaking all the time and not making it down the track. And I think something needs to be done there. Not that it's a waste of time to go make a run, but it almost is. Like, you know, I work for Jim Dunn, and, you know, he's a little bit lower budget team and stuff. And if you miss it on the tune up and you shake the tires, you know, you feel bad. But, you know, I tell Jim, I go, you know, it's not like we were the only ones that did it. Almost every car did it. So, you know, at nighttime, the track definitely gets better. And when the track gets better, it's very hard not to shake. You know, a top fuel car or a funny car, it needs wheel speed leaving. And if the track is prepped so good and you can't get that wheel speed, it's going to make the car shake. And it's usually because it's, you know, the track is just too good. It's just hard to get enough power in it to make it through there. And you don't get those conditions for 3 runs in a row. It makes it tough. And I think it makes, you know, the show is not as good for the spectators that stand there all day long. So I'm hoping they can get somebody in there and, like, just don't spray it as much, or don't, like, prep it as much as they used to. They used to do that for a little while. It wasn't like a no prep race, but it was definitely less prep, and it kind of evened the conditions out. And definitely on a Friday night when it's cool outside and the track temperatures, you know, around 80 or just under 80 degrees, they need to find a way to make the track not as good, so these cars go down the track. You're talking about John Force. I mean, pretty cool to see him win. You know, his car always runs on race day, always runs a little better than it looks on the scoreboard. He likes to roll it in a little bit, which makes the driver look better and the car look a little worse. But the guy's been doing that forever, and he's winning races, so you can't really go you know, against his logic. So kind of cool to see that. You know, how about Terry Haddock? He takes out Ron Capps in round number 1. I was watching it from our pits. We're right next to the Winston Vision, or what they call it, whatever it's called now, like the Vision deal, the big screen. And you know, Ron was driving away from him, and then he smoked the tires. And, you know, Terry Haddock could have lifted when he saw him driving away, but he didn't. He legged it down the finish line and won that race. And just the way it was with not as many cars there, he got a bye to the semis and went down the track and, you know, gave John Force a little bit of a race, kept him honest. So it's kind of cool to see those independents moving along. That's what we all like to see. What else did we have going on? Billy Torrance, you know, beating Mike Salinas in the final. Pretty cool. Beat him on a hole shot. You know, Salinas he's had a really good car this year. He's lost on a couple of hole shots and I think a red light. So he's got so good a car, he's got to step his game up a little bit to be a little bit more competitive. And, you know, kind of going into that, I worked for Frank Hawley for a long time, and people think as you get older, you know, your reaction times aren't as good. And that's just kind of a big myth. It's been proven already that, you know, when you see something, your eye sees the signal, it goes down to your leg floors the throttle, or whatever you're going to do, like over a trans brake button or whatever. That speed of the signal in your body really doesn't change that much. I think a lot of it's got to do with confidence, how well you're feeling, whether you're Greg Anderson or Erica Anders or whoever who's racing, who's a professional. When you first start off, it's not that bad. You know, you haven't lost on many hole shots or things like that. So you don't think about that before you go up there. And as you get more seasoned, you know, those things pop into your mind, and the really good drivers just can get rid of that. It's kind of like golf. You know, if you're playing golf and you slice a couple of balls into the woods to the right, well, if you start thinking about it, you know, doing something different to make it go left or straight, and you get out of your comfort zone, you're probably going to snap hook the thing or slice it worse. So you've got to have that confidence to know that, hey, I get like a 30 light or an 80 light all the time, and I just got to do my own deal and do well with it. And, you know, in drag racing, it's one of those sports where, you know, I'm not going to say you don't have to be, really in good physical shape, like a NASCAR driver or something, but a lot of it is in there. It's the confidence in your mind that the speed is there for you. Like your eyes and your feet are still working the same way. So that's why I think drag racers can definitely run later into the years. In some of the other sports, you're not driving a car around for 3 or 4 hours on a circle track where it requires a lot of endurance, like when you're young. I learned one thing this weekend. You know, Cruz has a badass car. Like, he smacked the wall a couple of times, and this one was kind of really bad. And I was amazed to find he hadn't worn a chin strap before. And I'd say probably 99.9% of the drivers, him being the 0.1, didn't, like, for whatever reason, I don't know. And a guy as big as Cruz in a funny car should be wearing one. Funny cars, unlike top fuel cars, the motor is out a certain amount of inches, so the seat has to be in a certain spot. You can't lower the seat because the drive shaft's there, and you can't raise the cage because of the body rules. So you're kind of like confined to certain dimensions everywhere. And when you get a bigger driver, it's really important to be strapped in super tight. It's actually important for any driver to be in really tight so you don't move at all. But a bigger driver with all the head shield protection is around there. If your belts are a little loose, or you're a big guy and your head touches that cage padding, you can't really see all that well. And he kind of said that was his deal, and he put a chin strap in the car to make it better. But it's next to impossible, I would think, to kind of hold your head in one spot like you did in the old days. And I'm glad to see he's gone to that. So it's, it's not saying, hey, I'm not as much of a man, I don't need a chin strap. It's just something you got to do. And the bigger you are, or the taller you are, the more you actually need something like that just to keep your head from moving or your body from moving in the car. What else did we have going on there? Yeah, I was with the Duns, and not that we've struggled at all. We made some good runs this year, but we ended up, detuning the car a little bit and ran 408, which was a really good run, and then went down the track first round, ran 411. Wasn't quick enough to beat Bob Tasca, but we definitely kept him honest, and that's the thing we're going to kind of work on a little bit more. Just be consistent. We're probably not going to be able to run as good as somebody in the first round, but I just hate going out there and smoking the tires. And the other guy, sometimes he's going to goof up, and you're going, man, if we just put our, 410 tune up in it, we would have won. So we're going to try and get a little bit more consistent with that. And we've been getting better and better with it. It's one of those things you just got to make more runs, and the more runs you make, the more you can dial it in. And, unfortunately, with a lower budget team, if you sit out a run or two, you really get behind the 8-ball on what you're doing. So I think we're going in a positive direction there. And Jim Campbell did a great job driving the car this weekend. And it's kind of fun to work with a team where everybody puts a little bit input in and figure things out, and the car gets better and better, and don't hurt any parts. So definitely in the right direction going along with Jim Dunn Racing, and looking forward to going in the race in Norwalk. That's for sure.
Great information there. And speaking of that, when you're talking about strapping these guys in, can you give people that may not know exactly what you're talking about with the chin strap, can you give them a little bit more detail on that?
Sure. So I've helped a lot of guys get licensed, and a lot of the people, when you drive like a nitro funny car, a big show car, whatever you want to call it, they accelerate very fast. There's a lot of G-force there, and a lot of people just don't want to be strapped in tight enough. And I've had this happen with a few people I was helping that were having some problems driving. And I finally go in there and I go, okay, get strapped in. You tell me when you're good and nice and tight, and I go in there and I go, okay, put your foot on the clutch pedal and the gas pedal and try and push yourself up. And if you move at all and your head touches anything in the cage, you're not in tight enough. So I'll go in there and like pull the things down. I go, put your shoulder down. Let's make it tighter. You want to be in there so uncomfortable. You don't really like being in there. But once they're in there, they go, man, that's too tight. And then they make a run and they go, holy, you know what, Jeff? He goes, I could see now, like everything was really, really clear. So that's really important. A lot of people don't know that coming from a little bit slower car. You can't get in the car tight enough. You do not want to move at all when you're strapped in that car. And then a chin strap, basically, it goes from like a D-ring on the front of your helmet down to your belts. So when you can adjust that, you kind of pull your head down so you're looking nice and straight. And then when you floor it, your head won't move at all. So very important that your head doesn't move and your body doesn't move. You can pull that chin strap down, and if you're not in there tight enough, you'll slide up a little bit, but where the chin strap is attached will not move, and it'll actually pull your helmet down kind of over your eyes. So you got to have both things. You got to be super tight in the car where you can't move up at all, and you have to have your chin strap adjusted properly so you're looking straight. And what that does is just keeps your head out of all the padding that's in the car from hitting anything. And if it hits it, it's not like you're driving along in a normal car and you go, oh, wow, my head's hit something I couldn't see. Everything happens so fast. And if you don't know any better, you don't know any better. My old line is, you don't know what you don't know. And I've been doing it long enough where you just can't be in the car too tight, and you have to have that chin strap adjusted properly. And once you do that, it makes driving these cars so much easier.
Definitely great tech information for all of us out there. You've been in the cars, you're working on these cars, so it's always good, to get just that little bit more insight of when we see these pictures, or when people see these pictures, of why they're wearing all this stuff, what's the reasoning behind it. So that's always great to hear and get that information. Lee, you got anything?
Only thing I've got is, Jeff, thank you, and we got to let you go. We got to get our first guest on.
All right.
Wait, we got to ask one question. There's one question. Large and in charge, and you're supposed to tell us about the Stony Creek restaurant and your milk experience of clearing everyone out of the pickup.
Boy, you're going back a long way on some of these stories. I can only imagine, but drinking milk, sometimes if you're lactose intolerant, that may be a possibility of doing something like that. Stony Creek days are going back like 30, 35 years. So I'm going to plead the fifth, and I have no idea what anybody's talking about.
Hey, we got to answer the questions that people sent in. So that was one of them. Again, Jeff, thanks for your time. Thanks for coming on. And if you guys see Jeff Arend at any of the races, yell, "The Jeweler!" But always remember, bring him a cold Coors Light.
Yep.
Love the t-shirt. Love the t-shirt. Thanks for coming on, and we will see you soon.
All right. Sounds good, guys. Take care.
All right.
Thank you, Jeff.
Thanks.
All right, folks. Well, we are going to continue to move on. We'll take a break, and we'll bring on our first guest, Mr. Dave Davies. We'll have him on and talk it up on drag racing and his involvement with Constant Aviation.
In the race for quality, there is no finish line. Jerry Bickle Race Cars is a one-stop chassis shop for drag racing performance parts and race components. For over 50 years, Jerry Bickle Race Cars has been an essential part of racers' plans for building world champion race cars. Our parts department is stocked with every part a racer might need. Log on to jerrybickle.com for more information. We build anything with doors. jerrybickle.com.
Mr. Davies, how you doing tonight?
Good, Lee. How about you? How you doing, Sam?
Man,
I'm doing good. Yourself?
Great.
Oh, hanging in there. It's 9:30 at night on the East Coast, man. So it's good.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Well, look, we're going to talk about drag racing. We'll talk about the company, but we see the guitar there in the background. So, you a musician?
Oh, yeah. Well, there's a couple of them. I can play them enough that I have guitars in the background. That's about as much as I can tell you. I would not say by any stretch that I'm any type of musician.
All right, there you go.
Everybody's got to be somebody. We all have those things that we try and do. For Lee and I, it's this show, but hey, we won't go that far. But so. Tell everyone a little bit about yourself, what all you got going on, and then from there, I think we can branch down into the company and into racing and everything else.
Yeah, well, we are ecstatic this year to have been able to sponsor the Showdown class. It comes with not quite a few, but a few years of racing myself. For the last 3 or 4 years, I've been running a Demon all over the country, along with the Modern Street Hemi Shootout guys, Dan Van Horn and his crew. This opportunity came up as the company was looking for a partner, somebody to work with directly, and we were talking to the NHRA team for a couple months, and then they mentioned that there was a opportunity to sponsor this class, and we're ecstatic to be doing it. We're excited. I think it goes without saying that part of the reason that they threw it over the wall to us and offered it and mentioned it to us is because I do have a drag pack that we're getting prepped and ready, and hopefully we're going to have that ready for Norwalk here in the next couple of weeks. So I think they knew exactly what they were doing when they offered the Showdown class over to me because they knew what I was getting myself into in the next couple of weeks.
All right, I think we have to go in this direction real quick, Sam. So you must be a Mopar guy. If you're running around with the Mopar, people doing the Mopar races, got the drag pack.
Yep.
Why the Mopar when it seems like maybe the last couple of years they've been, some would say muzzled. Others would say they're just down on performance. So why with Mopar stepping into the Factory Stock Showdown?
All right, well, 2 reasons. Number one, you guys know, you actually have friends that are Mopar friends. I'm sure everybody does. once you get that in your blood, it doesn't go away. And the second reason is exactly what you just said, Lee. If they haven't been performing, there's a reason they haven't been performing. There's something going on there that they haven't. And those of us that love that brand, those of us that are Dodge fans and Mopar fans, you know, we're going to fix it. We're going to figure out what it is. We're going to bring that brand back. We're going to make this new 21 drag pack is going to be a surprise to everybody. I think it surprises us that have it. A couple of us that are putting their cars together to race, we feel pretty confident that we're going to be able to unmuzzle the drag pack, so to speak. We're going to be able to bring that back. It's a challenge.
So I mean, everyone knows that, you know, there's always options of bringing more out, and like Lee was talking about, they've been muzzled. Where do you think, you know, in the next couple of years, do you find these cars being? Do you think you guys will have everything lined out with them, everything figured out? Do you think it's years? Do you think it's months? What's this kind of combination? What do you think the time frame is going to be?
Well, I could be sneaky and say, well, this year is going to be primarily testing, and we knew that. That's the conservative approach, right? We knew that when you get a car mid-season, it takes time to shake them out. I mean, the guys and gals at Schumacher are still shaking theirs out. I mean, you know, they're still working on it, right? I get it, but I think it's going to come around quicker than people think. I think that next year is going to be a fairly substantial year for these cars because we're going to have enough seat time, enough months under us, enough technology under them. But I think we're going to turn them pretty quick. Now, listen, you guys know better than anybody, and the people watching the show know better than anybody. It takes time to get there, but I think there's some large steps that are going to be taken fairly quickly and we're going to see the performance come up. We're going to see the competition come up. I mean, look at Norwalk. Last time I checked, guys, I think there's 25 people that entered this class for the Summit Nationals. That's a huge field for this class. And there's a couple more people that are going to drift in near the end. We all know that. That's a fairly large class. And while there's only 2 or 3 of them that are drag packs, a couple Mopars and the rest we know are the Copos and some Cobra Jets. We're ready. We're gonna get out there and get our test hits and get our practice and get our timing in and get our data and every pass we make. I don't know. I could sarcastically tell everybody just to get ready because they're warming up.
All right. So obviously you're a successful businessman. We'll get to that and then the specifics about the company. But you're going to run Factory Stock Showdown. Why? Why not Pro Stock? Why not Funny Car? Why not Top Fuel? Why not the more, I dare say, glamorous classes? Even though, do not misunderstand me, I love me some Factory Stock. I love the premise. Nonetheless, it's a very challenging class, as you mentioned. A lot of times high fields for 16 entries, 16 spots, and you also are constantly dealing with parity rules from the NHRA, it seems. So, why Factory Stock?
Well, Lee, once again, part of the reason is because of those difficulties, right? I'm not trying to say that the other classes, the other ones you mentioned are easier by any stretch of the imagination, but I personally like a challenge, right? I like the showdown class. I like the Factory Stock class. I like the fact that the cars are recognizable. The fans love these cars. I've been to the tracks. We were down in Houston as our first event sponsor, and I could see the fans. They recognize the cars. They know what they're looking at, and it's the always tinkering part of it that actually kind of draws me to it. Now, the logical side of this conversation is that this is the next logical step. Move up a step, move up a step, move up a step, right? I mean, I'm not immune to the fact that I would love to be running in some of the other classes, but let's take a step at a time and get ourselves there, right? And be logical about it.
Totally understandable. Myself, as Stan mentioned, and I'll pull this comment up again because I would hate to see it. Please do not penalize my beloved Fords. As we continue to just shake things up a little bit. That's all I'm going to say there. But let's dive into it. For this class, you guys already have a bounty out on this class. There's a lot of things going on. Why are you guys coming into this and shaking things up right away and just kind of showing like, hey, this class is going to be around for a while?
I thought it was important, and I think the NHRA thought it was important as well for continuity, right? So we made sure we put a multi-year deal in place, and I think, and we wanted to shine a spotlight on the class. If you're sponsoring a class, part of your responsibility is to shine a spotlight on it. You're not just sponsoring a class to have your name on the decal, right? We didn't go into it with that. My team is excited about it. The company's excited about it. Our customers, our vendors, everybody's excited about it. So we wanted to, as you said, shake things up a little bit. So when we started putting this deal together, I pitched the idea of a bounty program. And my first option was, let's do a chip draw. Fans like a chip draw. The video producers, the directors, the video crew loves a chip draw. It's something that everybody could watch and get their heads wrapped around. And immediately, the first problem I had that I saw with a chip draw is you have people that are running in multiple classes. All right. You have David and Aaron and Leah and other drivers that are running in multiple classes, and you don't want to penalize them by taking more of their time in between their runs, right? So that was an issue that I saw that probably we were going to struggle to alleviate. So the next option was, let's put a bounty program in place and have the previous event champion carry the bounty into the next event. And I pitched it like that, and then we ran it through race ops at NHRA, and I was explicit with those guys. I said, I don't want to do anything that causes anybody any more work. We're trying to do a promotion here. It's got to be simple. It's got to be easy. You guys control the cash. You guys control the outcome. I just want to put some rules in place, and we want to pitch this. And they liked the idea. And so we as soon as we had the class sponsorship nailed down, we rolled right into getting the bounty program in place. And the team at NHRA did a fantastic job. Guys, I would have loved to have had a 3-month off season, a 2-month off season. Hell, I would have loved to have had a month to put all this together, but we didn't. We had 2 weeks. By the time we signed it, we were rolling into Houston. So the team at NHRA, Brad Gerber and Andrew and Gary and all their team have done a fantastic job helping us and expediting through all the processes and all the things we need to pull off, not only the bounty, but actually just sponsoring the class as well. And we've got stuff coming. Keep your ears open. There's more coming. That's a hard tease. That's all you're going to get out of me right now. But there's other stuff coming, and it'll be we're gonna be shot. We're gonna get a bigger spotlight than we've already got so far. So there's more coming.
See, Lee, it's coming to be true again. Everyone holds out the juicy details on this show.
Oh, yeah. I'm holding. That's all you're getting. Doesn't matter how much Coors Light, Miller Lite, Bud Light you put in front of me here. That's all you're getting.
Maybe we'll have to bring JT in and give him the fireball, and then he'll get rolling.
God.
Yeah. Well, look, up front, thank you for your involvement in the sport. Thank you for your involvement in the Factory Stock Showdown. The dollar amount on this bounty, perhaps, what is it? What are the details there? Oh,
yeah. We put a $1,000 bounty on the previous event champion going into the next event. So going into Houston, we had a $1,000 bounty on Aaron, and he didn't even know it till he got there, right? Because it was brand new. So Aaron rolls up in his truck and pulls in. I was actually standing by talking to his crew when he pulled up. And hey, Aaron, nice to meet you. My name's Davies. I'm sponsoring the class now. And by the way, you got a $1,000 bounty on your head. And he didn't know until he got there, which was kind of funny. And then obviously David beat Aaron in Houston, so David's going into Norwalk with a bounty on his head as well. And Norwalk's kind of our home court. It's 2 hours from the corporate headquarters. It's an hour and a half from my house. We're going to have 200 plus employees there each day, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. So this is kind of our coming out party, so to speak. It's exciting for the company. It's exciting for the employees. I mean, guys, it's been 18, 16 months since anything in Ohio has had an unrestricted capacity play outside, right? So I know Epping was busy. I know there was a lot of people there. I can't imagine what it's going to be like at Norwalk. That event sold out 3 weeks ago, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I don't know definitely if it has. So another question for you with this factory, with the factory stock, do you think this is a class that's going to bridge the gap for a lot of regular, quote unquote, the regular guys and girls out there that want to get into racing? Is this that class that does it?
I think it has the possibility. I mean, it still takes some resources to pull it off. There's people running in this class right now that are running in this class, having a good time and getting more and more competitive every time they run, right? They're working their way through the problems. They're doing what they've got to do. They're doing it on a shoestring. I think it's a class that can be done on a shoestring. It's definitely a bridge and a stepping stone between sportsman and pro. I mean, I think that's obvious. It's doable. It's very doable in the Copos and the Mustangs for sure. It's a little more difficult with the Mopar package, with the Dodge package, only because it's limited and the tech and the parts are just now starting to roll out, right? So the built up programs, it's definitely doable.
So, Dave, we've mentioned it. You've mentioned it. Your company, Constant Aviation. Let's dive into the details there. I looked at the website, and it looks like you do just about everything, even like repairing damaged planes of that extent. So what does Constant Aviation do? And go ahead and roll into, well, why put your name on an entire class in the sport of drag racing with it being involved in aviation?
Yeah, well, but Constant Aviation, at its core, it's very simple. It's a maintenance, repair, and overhaul company. That's an MRO. That's an aviation term. All right. And at its core, what we do is we work on planes. Okay. It's that simple. We maintain them. We do the inspections. We do the repairs. We do modifications. That's what we do. We have a large operation in Cleveland, Ohio. We have a large operation in Sanford, Florida. And we have technicians that work in our hangars in those two locations, and they work on aircraft of all shapes and sizes, primarily biz jets, from large business jets to small business jets. We're one of the few operations in the country that can take an aircraft in one hangar, strip it, sand it, paint it, walk it through our hangar, put a brand new interior in it, brand new cabin management audio systems and Wi-Fi and all kinds of stuff in the cabin, and then do the most recent inspections that are required and kick it out the door. A lot of places can do one or two of those things. We can do them all in-house in one location, and that's kind of rare. The other thing that we have the other thing that we hang our hat on is we have the largest AOG fleet in the country. And AOG stands for Aircraft on Ground. That means you're at an airport, your aircraft has a problem, and you can't utilize it. You can't get it to your maintenance facility. You can't get it to the hangar you want to work it in. You call us, we send a truck out with some technicians, we get the plane ready to go, flying again and off the ground and back to making money again and back to earning revenue again and off the ground. You don't want planes sitting on the ground. We have 25 trucks in 28 different cities around the country. We have the largest rapid response team for aircraft incidences in the country. Part of what we do is maintenance. Maintenance means we have to have mechanics. We also have a very large engineering team that does wiring projects for the Air Force. We build wiring harnesses. We have a fabrication shop and a composite shop. If you start listening to what I'm saying, we have the skill sets that are very similar to what some of the large race teams have. We have the skill sets and the resources and the team members that are basically doing the same things that are being done on race cars, but we're doing them on aircraft. There's a lot of synergies between our aircraft maintenance organization and the capabilities that are required to put a race car together and modify a race car and build a race car and support a race car. And that's where the synergies come from. Everybody's having problems hiring people. Everybody's having problems keeping their staff levels up across all industries, right? So some of this is a recruitment action, some of it's retention action, and some of it is just straight branding and straight marketing. We do work on some of the team members' planes right now. So it was a logical fit for us because the skill sets mesh. The more we talked about it, the more we kicked the can around, the more it made sense. The more it made sense to us. And trust me, I really tried to find a way to not do it, but it made more and more sense the more we talked about it.
All right, there you go. Well, again, thank you for your involvement, and wow, to be able to do all of that with one company, as you said, a lot can do one or the other. Very impressive. It's what little I've seen into the private plane world. It is a wild world, and where the costs that it can go and what is needed to have everything work and function. It was eye-opening what little I've been able to experience of it.
Yeah, it's ever changing. It's very dynamic. There's a lot of zeros behind everything that we do, which means you got to keep your eye on the ball. I mean, with that many zeros, if something starts to slide left or right, it has a pretty big impact, right? So it's very important that you keep your eye on the ball, and safety is a huge part of it too. We have a fantastic safety record, a fantastic safety department. So does the NHRA. There's just so many ties between the two, what we do and what any race team or motorsports does in general. And, not to mention that the people that work in our hangars, the guys and gals that work in our hangars, our mechanics and our technicians, they're fans. I mean, they work on cars and race cars as well. There's just, it just, I'm convincing myself over and over again that this was a good move. So there you go. I just did it again.
There you go. Yeah, there definitely is a correlation between airplane people and car people. That they are definitely connected. And yes, again, thank you for the involvement, and so good to see the Constant Aviation brand within the sport, and we hope that you have many continued and successful years in it.
Yeah, well, thanks, guys. I hope we do too. And like I said, when we get ready to untease the next move, I'll be sure to shoot somebody an email. All right, so
thank you. Sounds good.
Send us that email. Let us know so we can break bread with you and tell everyone else that is in the drag racing community about exactly what you've got going on. And like Lee said, we appreciate it. The fans out there appreciate it. And actually, Stan is asking a great question. He says, what was the temperature in the room with this race ending season in Vegas? Seems far away from most teams in this class. So basically, I think he's asking how was the atmosphere with everyone in Vegas at the end of the year, or what will it be?
I think Vegas. I'm gonna brag a little bit. I think Vegas is going to be this year. Vegas is going to be an exciting event. I'm looking forward to it. Obviously, I should have a car running in Vegas. Constant's looking forward to it. We actually have a trade show that we attend that is 2 weeks before the Vegas event. So I might be spending about a month out in Las Vegas, which by itself is a little good and scary. I think by the end of the season, one thing to remember at the end of the season that if we have a season like last year where somebody starts to run away with 3 or 4 or 5 races in a row, the bounty carries over until somebody claims the bounty. And if that racer runs the season out, the bounty carries over to next year. So I think there's going to be a lot of eyes on what's going on in Vegas, and might just be people following the bounty by itself.
There you go. So Vegas is looking good. Hopefully you're down there. We will see you there if you are there. But like I said, we continue to appreciate having new people come into the sport, seeing all the new cars, and especially this new class. We'll definitely have to speak with, again, this Brian guy that we're talking about. We'll have to ask him what's his opinion on the class. But it's been, an honor to have you on and talk about your business. It seems like your business is doing great things. You're stepping into the sport of drag racing, and that's always great to see.
Yep. I appreciate it, guys. Thanks for having us.
Lee, again, see, this is what happened. Lee drinks ice during the show.
Yeah.
No, he drinks ice during the show and he mutes himself, right?
Yeah.
Because he doesn't understand. You got to do the cup with no ice, Lee. Cold water, no ice.
look,
a red Solo cup with ice in it. Sure, it is. Yeah. Okay. I'm with you.
It is. It is. It is a red. I know Red Solo Cup is the poster child for alcoholism, but no, it is just ice.
That, Lee. Nobody's buying that.
It is just ice. And I forget to turn the mic back on. I do. Look, Sam, I'm sorry. I'm not in an air-conditioned studio like you, sitting in lavish comfort down there, okay? I'm not. Man. I'm in a showroom that doesn't have air.
Everybody's got to be somebody. Just remember
that. That's right. And you're over there in comfort. So my last question for you before we do let you go, Dave, is, and it's not actually drag racing related, but you being involved in aviation, have you ever partook a Reno air race? The air races out there. Have you been out there and experienced that?
Yes, I have. The Red Bull stuff and the Red Bull stuff as well. And that's I had the opportunity to it's a little different to be in the pits for a couple Red Bull races as well. It's a different pit environment, obviously, but it still gets you up and close to basically where the planes are flying over your head while they're doing their race, and it is very exciting. We're actually hosting the Thunderbirds at the Cleveland Air Show when it comes in later this summer. They're going to be utilizing one of our hangars in Cleveland to stage, so that's always an exciting time as well.
Man, very cool, very cool. Well, look, cannot wait to see you at Norwalk. I'll definitely have to stop by the pits and get an interview and spend some time and make sure that I don't bring a cup of ice with me so the mic can be on. We'll definitely do that.
Yeah, absolutely. We're sharing a hospitality tent with Kalitta Motorsports, so we'll be hanging around the Kalitta hospitality tent and also down in our pits. And with any kind of luck, we'll be able to get more than 3 passes in a couple weekends, right? So hopefully we can make it to the show. But I'll be happy with 3 good, clean passes to collect all the data we can. I'll be happy with that.
That's all you can ask for.
Absolutely. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
All right. Yeah, thank you. See, Lee, everyone knows it. See, Lee, everyone knows it. They're saying beer pong, Red Solo Cup. I mean, I think
I know.
I think it was Toby. Was it Toby Keith who messed that up for you? Red Solo Cup.
Toby Keith.
Yeah. See,
Solo Cup. I feel you up.
Let's
have a party.
Let's just break to a commercial because you're singing, and our next guest, like I said, Lee, the Brian. What is it, Brian? Like Brian Lohnes or something like. And, yeah. Lohnes. That guy. Yeah. Lohnes. So he's coming up next. You're starting to sing. You're starting to sing. So let's just go to commercial. I think that's
we got to keep moving. We got to keep moving. Dave, thank you once again. Let's take a commercial break with Justin Ashley and Guard Lab, and Brian Lohnes will be on right after.
Oh, man.
Hey, how are you guys doing?
Oh, so it's that guy. I remember it now. It's the voice. That's what I needed. That's the move. Now everyone knows who you are.
That's the move.
Right.
Exactly.
Well, Brian, welcome to the Competition Plus Pow Hour. Good to have you on. My first question is, why don't we get the Purdy NHRA corner?
Well, because it's late and my kids are asleep upstairs. So I use this room to do voiceover work in. And so this is my kid once told one of his friends that I have a soundproof room in my basement, which I had to explain to his dad. It's not a soundproof room. Like there's nothing weird happening in here. It's just a acoustically correct room. It was a very odd conversation to have at a football field, but it happened. So
man,
there you go.
That conversation.
Well, you definitely do sound great. You're like the best sounding guest we've had so far. So the room's doing its job.
Well, that's good. That's a good thing then.
Yeah, that Lee, I think he's taking it up there to the question that you asked John Force right away when we had him on there. So I'm glad you clarified that it's not a soundproof room. It's just,
it's nothing weird.
We understand it. Yeah,
nothing weird. Yeah.
Sounds like you're just on the show, getting ready for an NHRA event, and we know that you are full-fledged in NHRA. So just kind of tell us about, I guess, your journey getting there.
Yeah, so for me, whenever we go back to New England Dragway, it's the full circle trip because that's really where I started. The first drag strip I ever announced at was Lebanon Valley Dragway in New York. I actually started the first motorsport stuff that I ever announced was SCCA road racing, believe it or not, and I went to my first SCCA road race in my life to be the announcer, and it worked out just as good as you'd think it would with that type of equation. But I worked at New England Dragway for years, and people always tell the story. I used to sleep in the timing tower there when I was a kid during the summers, and it was an IHRA track at the time, so I got picked up by IHRA and became an IHRA national event announcer for many, I'm going to say 7-8 years. I worked with Brian Olson and Bob Unkefer and a great crew of guys there. And then like around 2011, 2012, IHRA thing just wasn't as much fun anymore. The program had kind of slowed down a lot, and it was just, I felt like I had kind of gotten to where I was going to go, and I decided to stop doing that. The whole time I was working regular jobs. I ran truck fleets and did, ran maintenance departments, stuff like that. I was a regular guy, regular working guy, along with doing the drag racing stuff. And then NHRA and New England Dragway swapped over to NHRA Sanction, and I was still working at the racetrack. And long story short, Steve Gibbs hired me to announce the nostalgia race at Bowling Green. He came up before the first NHRA New England Hot Rod reunion. I was doing a divisional race. He hired me to go down to Bowling Green the next year to announce that event. As I was announcing that event, Bob Fry was there. And Bob Fry, I had never met Bob. He had never met me. And after a couple hours, he came up and he said, who the hell are you? And so I told him who I was. And as it turned out, the next weekend was going to be the very first running of the New England Nationals. So he called California, got me a tryout at that race. I called some stock and super gas. And then didn't hear anything for months and thought, man, I must have really done an awesome job because no one called me back. And then lo and behold, I started doing some stuff as a PA announcer for NHRA in 2014 at the Gator Nationals was my first race, and it's been all downhill from there.
Well, so Brian, Epping, New Hampshire, obviously home base. We just wrapped up that race. Yeah. I love going to Epping. My first time going to Epping was 2019. I'd never been there before, and I didn't know what I was getting into. And I'm pulling into this dirt parking lot. I'm like, oh yes, this is old school. And what I appreciate about the place, I tell people this all the time, that like they know who they are. They know they're not a premier facility, but they do try to accommodate the fans. Like they bring in the extra bathrooms. They've got nice porta potties, and they're doing it their way, and they're doing a good job. Talk to us about the ownership, maybe even a little bit about the history and why it should not be overlooked on the NHRA calendar, but why people should, hey, let's go vacation in the Northeast and catch a drag race.
Yeah, so the track opened on September 11th, 1966, and it's unique in its ownership because it is not owned by a single person or an entity. It is actually owned by a group of stockholders. It is a private corporation. So basically the racers, there's a group of a couple thousand people that have shares in the track. They are the stockholders of the racetrack. There is a board of directors. That board of directors has a president. And that board of directors and president oversees the operation of the racetrack. So they oversee the operation of the general manager, the track manager, the sales department, all that kind of stuff. So it's an interesting setup. It's a setup that is really good in some respects. And in some respects, it holds the place back. To me, it's really good because it has prevented any sort of really wildly reckless financial decisions to be made over the years. We've seen a lot of racetracks get themselves in trouble with maybe trying to overexpand or maybe getting a little over aggressive in different areas. And the board of directors is a natural kind of balance to that. But sometimes you need to have that maverick attitude, and the racetrack has definitely been run in a very conservative way over the years. That's one of the reasons why it's still in business. So I'm not saying this is a bad thing, just kind of giving you the positive and potential negative of both sides of that layout. Lee, to your point, I mean, the reason I think the place is so cool is because it really isn't trying to be anything other than what it is. And you mentioned that the people kind of know who they are. And it is the only quarter-mile drag strip in the region. Yes, you can go to Lebanon Valley Dragway. It's almost 4 hours west to get out there. It's a smaller facility, Lebanon Valley. Great place, just a smaller place, not capable of holding a national event style kind of shindig. But it's got the little tiny timing tower. It's got the hill people sit on. We had a great crowd Saturday and Sunday. Friday was incredibly cold. It was just a rough day all around. Anybody that watched the qualifying on .tv or followed qualifying realizes, on Friday, a very small fraction of cars actually got down the racetrack. But man, Saturday and Sunday was killer. I really love the place, and I feel like the place has a spot kind of on the national event tour because we need places like New England Dragway, not just in the sense of because I like it and because we want to keep the racetrack healthy, but as a sport, we need to keep recognizing the fact that as awesome as ZMAX is, as awesome as Vegas is, as awesome as any mega track is, the whole world isn't made of mega tracks. And the more light we can shine on places like New England Dragway, the more it kind of lets people know that these places still exist. You should be looking to find your local drag strip and supporting it. But, one of the great analogies, the very first New England Nationals was a calamity. I mean, you want to talk about a race that was like Woodstock? This was crazy. There was twice as many people probably in the place than should have been. They were actually thinking about closing the gates totally. It was just out of control. And I think the best analogy I heard was that it was like, I live in Boston, obviously. So it was like the Boston Celtics showing up to play basketball in your high school gym. And it felt like it, no other event feels like the New England Nationals because of the proximity of the crowd, how tight everything is. And, you guys have seen the footage. You look down the row of trailers in the pits and it's just wall to wall people. So it's unique.
Lee, you've been drinking ice again.
I've been drinking ice again.
Lee, you just gotta get the clear glass and just own it. And you're good.
I do.
No,
I do.
Brian, I think what really needs to happen is we need to just make that maybe a drinking game for everyone that's watching. If Lee does that, everyone, including the guests, has to take a drink. I think we may just have to do that because Lee hasn't understand that concept yet. That
I haven't. I have. Well, that means I've been paying attention to what people actually say. That's what I'm doing over here. So, Brian, with everything that you did say, I do have to ask this. I've been a proponent of this. I've mentioned it. I want it to happen. What do you think about the NHRA having a throwback weekend right there at Epping?
I'd love it. And it's not something that hasn't been discussed. This is an idea that I think a lot of people have discussed. We see it in kind of bursts and fits sometimes. We see Mike Salinas with the Mongoose wrap on his car, or over the years we've seen some people do some cool retro stuff. It becomes complicated only in the sense of honoring those sponsor commitments. And I know it can be done because obviously NASCAR does it every year. But the reality is Epping would be the place, the spot, the absolute jam for a nostalgia style race. That's why they do it at Darlington, right? That's why it's a throwback weekend at Darlington, because Darlington is a massive facility. It's way bigger than Epping. And of course it's been all modernized, but it's still Darlington and it's still that cool first ever speedway. So I agree, man. I'm down. Just working through the hurdles of making sure the sponsors are happy with what wraps and stuff look like. It would be awesome.
So we've talked about that, and we've talked about, compared to the stick and ball sports of having a all-star weekend, right? Have drivers drive in different class. Has that been something that's been talked about, looked at? Maybe we should try something like that?
Yeah. So,
if you can say.
I'll listen. I'll tell you everything I can tell you until they open the door and drag me out of here. No, I'll say this. I will tell you that there are constantly conversations had about all these different kind of ideas and stuff like that. And obviously not a lot of them make it to a place where they could be executed. But I think, especially a place like Epping, my own personal opinion, a place like Epping is an interesting place to maybe try some of these ideas, whether it's the one you just mentioned, or it's an old school, like the old Winston Showdown when we're doing something with funny cars versus dragsters. It is such a unique place. And obviously, it's no secret. It's public knowledge that the place struggles for cars. And the reason it struggles for cars is because of where it is. If we ran Seattle without the Western Swing, guess what? We'd struggle for cars in Seattle. Losing Virginia kind of interrupted the flow of what would have been a little bit more or a little bit less troubling logistics in terms of you'd be on the East Coast. You can go from Virginia up to Epping and then go home. So to make the trip from anywhere to Epping and back is a long way. So is there a solution to that issue? And I will tell you this, I think we had a very compelling race. I don't want to see 12 cars or 13 cars, but I will tell you that, at least from my seat, from what I watched, it was pretty damn entertaining. I know that the people that sat in that racetrack, the place was full to the gills. They had a good time. But Sam, to your point, I think if you're going to do something like that, I think Epping is an ideal location because we know that it struggles for cars. So if you're going to have some sort of a invitational or all-star race or something kind of crazy like that, why not do it there?
Great idea. And I mean, it's just like, for example, what West Buck does at the beginning of the year with the door slammer race right before, Gainesville. It brings more cars to that area and it supports it. So, I mean, I think there's a lot of ideas that Lee and I talk about that we see people out in the pits and they're like, hey, what about this? What about that? Just because we want to continue to see the sport thrive and to see the sport grow. And I think with that, like, since you've been involved with the NHRA, how much have you seen the progression and the change with everything?
I think for me, I think it's interesting in my time with NHRA. It's been, Peter Clifford and then Glenn Cromwell. There's been some leadership changes in some of the different departments of the company. And I will tell you this, from where I sit and from what I do, which goes beyond just calling the races on TV. It is a management group that is very willing to listen to ideas, to contemplate things, and even to implement some things and try some things and not necessarily stick their neck out, but they're willing to not just kind of close the door in your face. And I don't care where you work. I mean, I worked at some pretty big companies before I started doing drag racing and car stuff full time with my life. But all I know is the people that I worked for that I respected the most and that I learned the most from were the ones that, even if these ideas I had weren't implemented, they listened to them. And I can tell you that the people that operate this company now are willing to listen to ideas. We have lots of different conversations and meetings on different topics. We have stuff that's kind of, I don't know, deep in the background that we're trying to flush out and get ready to work and make good. So I enjoy the direction that the company's gone in terms of the leadership, in terms of the ability to have conversations and to contemplate ideas and try different things. I mean, for those of you watching, have either of you guys ever heard of Plex TV? It's like an app. It's like a smart TV app. You guys ever heard of Plex? It's fairly popular. It's more popular than I thought it was. But if you have a smart TV, you can download the Plex app. It's free. You don't have to sign up for anything. But I'm dropping this knowledge on your show because it hasn't even been announced by NHRA yet. So I will get in trouble for this, but it's cool. There is now a 24/7, 365-day-a-year channel that is nothing but NHRA drag racing on Plex. And it will be launching on various different free television apps for your smart TV over the next couple of weeks. So this is races like you can watch everything from the 1963 Indy Nationals. There's hundreds of hours of vintage races up there. There's modern races up there. There's some of the web content that we're putting up there, some of the like rewinds and stuff we've done. And all this is stuff that's coming from conversations and ideas like maybe we should try doing something like this. Well, guess what? Now we did. So if you have Plex TV or if you've not gotten Plex TV yet, it's absolutely 100% something you can download for free, find the NHRA channel, and watch till your eyes bleed. It's cool.
Well, I know what I'm going to be doing all winter long.
And the only people that know this right now are us and anybody watching, because the press release, I don't think it's coming out for another week. So I'll get an email about this in the morning, but I want people to watch it. So here we go.
Hey, go download it, folks. Go download it. It might cost us with Brian Lohnes' job. Go download it.
Well, hopefully you don't get in trouble for that.
Nah, I'll get a little slap on the wrist and it's fine. But the end of the and bottom line is just like Glenn. A couple of years ago, we started running like some of the exhibition stuff. We'd run like maybe some big tire, like no time cars or radial cars or this or that, or diesel trucks in other places. And I can tell you where that all came from. And that came from Denver, like maybe 3-4 years ago. It was me and Glenn Cromwell and a couple guys after maybe qualifying. I think probably after qualifying on Saturday night, we're eating dinner and having a couple drinks. And the conversation came up of where have we gone wrong and what can we do and how can we start to try to turn the tide back on some of this stuff, or how can we try to reach out to people? And it's like, well, we got to invite them to the race. If we're not communicating with a particular group, or we've lost touch with a particular group or a segment of this sport, then we got to let them know that we want them to be around and we want to showcase them. And within 6 months, we had put together a program, and we saw a bunch of different exhibitions happen over the course of time, and those programs will be kicking back up again, doing some different things. But I really do like the folks that run this company, and I like the fact that I can talk to them and we can have good conversations about things that maybe they wouldn't have considered in the past. So that's my take.
I think that's an accurate take as well. I was able to talk with Glenn briefly in Epping. I saw him and like, hey, Glenn, hey, the guy that was on the show, remember me? And he's like, I do. No. It was a very positive conversation, and I'm going to talk more about it on my show on Thursday night. But everything that he said, I was like, he's getting what fans and competitors are saying. It was more of, we just are not there right now, but we are definitely talking about getting there. And, I mentioned, doing the broadcast on YouTube, streaming live Friday night qualifying at Charlotte. He's like, yes, we needed to do that. I'm like, that's huge. It's in the algorithm forever now. He's like, we want to do more things like that. We want to bring on another social media content creator. I really feel like NHRA at the professional categories is on the verge of possibly another golden period if it's managed right.
Yeah, I think we're in a transition period. I mean, the way the sport looks now is not going to look the same way in even 3-4 years, and I mean that in a positive way to some degree, because in any transition period there are people that are it's a rising falling type thing. But we are seeing the return of independent single car or loosely affiliated professional drag racing teams outside of pro stock. Our pro stock field and our pro stock category is healthier than it's been in a lot of years. And that's because of the accessibility of competitive horsepower and programs and packages that can put talented people in good cars and have them get a shot to win. That's the bottom line there. And I think in the fuel classes, we're seeing a transition, obviously, away from the mega team model. And we're seeing this transition into independent teams. We look at what Antron Brown's doing. We look at what Bob Tasca does. Yes, they're independent teams. Yes, they have an affiliation, but they are not under the DSR umbrella. I feel like we're going to start seeing a lot more of that. The amount of inspiration that Steve Torrance and Billy Torrance and that entire family and group have provided to this sport has single-handedly changed this. When we look back in 20 years, we're going to look at Steve Torrance as a great champion, one who shows no signs of slowing down. But we're also going to look at that family and that team as a groundbreaking, paradigm-breaking organization in this sport. And I mean that in a positive way, because in my mind, I want drag racing to be the last professionally accessible motorsport in this country. Meaning, if you're a kid racing a go-kart, you need a whole hell of a lot to go right for you to have any shot of breaking into an IndyCar or a NASCAR career. If you're a kid in a junior dragster, the path to get into top fuel dragster is by no means easy or simple or something you can just kind of roll out of bed and make happen. But as we are seeing Justin Ashley do, Krista Baldwin do, name Joe Morrison, name it, however you want to name it, we are seeing this sport transition back into this type of a program. And to me, what that does is it builds personalities, it builds great backgrounds. And the best part of it is most of the people doing this are fairly youthful. They're coming out of the A-Fuel ranks, they're coming out of other places. So I think what we see in drag racing today is the beginning, middle portion of this transition. And it's the painful part. It's the weird part where what's the main direction here? How am I going to do this part? But I think ultimately it's for the good, because again, that idea that this can be a professional motorsport that is the kind of the people's motorsport like it was and has been for decades is kind of returning to its roots. I think that's awesome.
And to follow up with that, like you said, all this is going on. We're trying to get more into the youthful side of the sport. I ask this question a lot, but how do we continue to get younger fans and younger people into the sport?
So the real easy answer to this, and man, I might lose my job in the morning. No, I'm kidding. My opinion on this is very simple. We need to start appealing to those audiences and speaking to them and providing them kind of the content and stuff that they want to look at. I mean, a nitro funny car and a top fuel dragster are unassailably the most incredible devices that we have in drag racing. As a guy who has called quite literally every form of this sport that you can imagine, from big rig diesel trucks to NHRA drag racing, they are unequivocally top shelf. But if I'm a kid who has a radial tire car, or I'm a kid who wants to build a radial tire car, or I'm a kid who sees Cletus McFarlane has all this badass stuff, I want to see him participating in an NHRA national event on some level beyond an exhibition car. So, and this is just me talking. This is not I don't speak for the organization. I'm speaking for me here. But I think there needs to be a directed effort, focus, concentration on getting those kids through the gate, because they're coming through the gate at the local drag strip. Like, there are a lot of kids who race really fast street cars at Epping that didn't come hang out at the national event because maybe they don't feel like it speaks to them, or they don't feel like we as an organization or we as an overriding umbrella are speaking to them. So that's the way we got to break that barrier down. And then, on the other side, I think, as Lee mentioned, it's like the social media side of NHRA's portfolio is going to be growing. I know that for a fact. And that's obviously how you communicate with a generation of people that we're talking about right now. So I think it's twofold. I think the people that are already in drag racing, talking to them differently, showing them that they're welcome, that they have a spot, is one thing. And I think on the other side of it, it is the social media communication that will be bolstered by additional workers, additional resources. Lou Flores just said he thinks that the cost of running the professional categories is killing the sport, in his opinion. Lou Flores, this has never been inexpensive. I know everybody likes to think, hey, in 1965, some guy with a Sunoco station could go out and just kill everybody in the top fuel car. No, he couldn't. He couldn't, and he never did. And if you want to go back and look at who won those races in the 1960s and how they won them, they did not win them out of the back of a gas station. Yes, there was a time when 100 top fuel cars would show up to the U.S. Nationals, and that must have been incredible. But a modern super comp car would bury every single one of them. It's not supposed to be easy, and it's not supposed to be cheap. It's professional motorsports. That is my unpopular opinion. I think Lee's about to duck. Lee's about to duck down there.
No, don't worry. I've already said enough controversial things on this show myself. And look, and you're looking at the man over there. They got Frank Hawley. So I mean, it's
wait a minute. No, let's go back. I don't know if you've seen that episode. I made a statement that is coming to be very true about Tony Stewart driving a car. So I asked Frank Hawley, hey, is it true, the rumors that are going around about Tony Stewart eventually driving a car? Well, needless to say, he kind of backed me into the corner. Muhammad Ali, Floyd Mayweather, gave me a couple of double taps, and I fell for him, left my hands down. And so I mean, and Amanda was on the show, and she kind of was like, "Ooh, dude, you set yourself up." Yeah, no help. Lee left me out to dry as my co-host, but
I couldn't do nothing. Look, I couldn't do nothing for the man.
Coming full circle, I'm going to ask you the same question. Do you think that there's a chance that maybe an Indy, somewhere in that area, you don't think so?
Not this year.
Okay.
Oh, Now listen.
No.
Now listen. I'm going to take this to another level that I know you guys haven't even heard about. What if the first time he competes isn't at a national event? Why is nobody talking about that? Why has nobody brought that point up? That's all. Go ahead and let that roll around your mind a little bit, and that's fine. We can move along to the next topic. That's all.
Okay. Okay.
All right.
Well,
Red
that
Solo
one
Cup.
was next year. That was a lot better than what do you know that I don't know?
No.
Yeah.
There's
Frank
nothing.
Looked at me and no. Frank looked at me and said, "Sam, what do you know that I don't know?" I'm asking.
I mean, there's never a 0% chance of anything in life, but that's pretty close to a 0% chance for this year.
All right.
You heard it first here for this year. I like that.
I like that. I like that. Well, look, man, speaking of professional drag racing, the COVID availed to you some different opportunities, and you were able to go down to Darlington Dragway and announce a PDRA.
Yeah, man,
race.
it was great. Yeah.
Yeah. What do you think about the PDRA and what Tommy Franklin's got going on?
No, I had a blast. That was a neat opportunity just because the schedule overlap is always kind of so hardcore that I can never get to their events. And obviously, not much overlap last year for anything or anyone. So it ended up being a great weekend. Worked with Lee Sebring calling that race at Darlington, which is one of my favorite tracks. I've called Drag Week there several times. And it's an amazing program. It's a fantastic program. I look at the competition. I mean, I personally, as an old school door slammer guy, love nitrous cars. And they had them stacked up like cordwood there. So I had a blast at that race. And it was interesting. Last year was, was what it was for everybody. But for me personally, it was, I continued to kind of bebop around when we weren't doing much. I did, some of Donald's stuff, the couple of races in Orlando, did a PDRA race, got up to do the SFG $1 million race up in Michigan. And it kept me sane. I think all of us had some pretty down days last year. It was interesting. I found myself, and like all of us did probably, you find yourself thinking about stuff like, man, and I've never not appreciated being involved in professional motorsports for a living and being involved in automotive journalism and other stuff to make a living. I've never lacked appreciation for that because for 10 years, it's all I wanted to do, but I couldn't. And I worked my way to a spot where I could. But yeah, being down at the PDRA race last year was an absolute blast. First class program all the way around, and it was fun.
No, that's awesome. And working with Lee Sebring, can you do a good Lee?
No.
Put it in the beams.
Never. Listen, it's like, what are you going to do? It's like being an Elvis impersonator. I'm not doing that. Come on, man. I'm not going to try to impersonate Sebring. These guys on the Vegas Strip are a dime a dozen trying to be Elvis. We're going to be Sebring? Come on. No, it's impossible. I'm not trying that. No.
What is it like hearing that in person? I've tried to get to a couple of Ducks races and different things that Lee's there for. What is that like hearing him, raw emotion? Like, Tucci has his smoky burnout. I've heard that many times. What is that like?
So this is the ironic part of being a drag race announcer, especially at a place like SGMP. We can't hear F all in that tower. So Lee could be reading verses from the Bible, and it might be putting in the beams, or it could be Leviticus. I can't hear him. I'm standing right next to him. The building is so loud, I can hear nothing. So I look over, and if I see his jaw like hung open for about an extra 10 seconds, I'm like, he's doing the put it in the beams thing. So I'll wait, and then we move on from there. But no, it is cool. It's definitely his tagline, and he gets up on the chip for it. Usually at the Donald Long's races, by the time we get to final eliminations on Sunday or Monday morning at 3:00 a.m., everybody's just about ready to get the hell out of there. So the put it in the beams is way stronger on Friday than it is on Sunday night.
I think we need to take a drink.
I caught myself. I know he's known. Yeah, take a drink. I know he's known for
everybody take a drink.
Yeah, take it. I know he's known for the put it in the beams, but I love how he announces the ghetto sleigh car. I love that. Ghetto sleigh. I mean, I'm like, this is perfect. I love how he announces that car.
Now, Lee's a great guy. Obviously, we have a good friendship. We've worked together a bunch, and I think we're a good team. It's funny. I've always loved working with other people. There are some guys that don't. Worked with Brian Olson for years, the late Brian Olson for years at the IHRA, one of the funniest, most quick-witted, smart guys ever. Staging Steve Latempt, who recently passed away, worked with him for years there. Bob Unkefer, who I hadn't worked with in probably 10 years. He and I did the SFG race last year in Michigan, and it was like that. It was within 1 minute. It was like, dude, this is great. I mean, we were hitting our marks. Everything was cool. It's really fun. I like the energy of working with other people. I've worked with Al Tucci 3 times, and 3 of the most highlighted weekends probably of my career, if you can call it that, because announcing with Al Tucci is like trying to chase a rabbit around your backyard. And the rabbit can't get away because there's a fence, but you cannot catch the rabbit. And it's a lot of fun. Al's brain works in ways that science hasn't really mapped out yet. And so that's what makes it really fun. He will be going in various different directions almost at the same time. And it's fun to keep up. I had a blast working with, I really don't have a lot of bad things to say with anybody I've worked with, except for one guy whose name will be left from the record book. But back when Feld, and I'm just going off on a tangent now, so you guys can totally just shut off my microphone if you want. But back in the IHRA days, when Feld Entertainment bought IHRA, which is just about the time the thing went over center, they wanted to replace all of us drag race announcers at the drag races with the monster truck announcers. So they brought a guy into Rockingham. They had him room with me, and then they wanted me to teach him how to announce drag races. And it was like, nah, that ain't how this is going to go. So anyway, Aaron Polburn, who was in charge of IHRA at the time, kind of gathered us to the side and was like, hey, listen, they're trying to stick these monster truck announcers on me. I don't want them. So do not give this guy any help. This guy had known for like 2 months he was going to come announce this race, and he had never been to a drag strip before. And he had not bothered to learn anything about drag racing or the people or any of it. And so when the first pro session came up, Polburn put the microphone in this guy's face and said, okay, take it away. And the guy went down in flames. And he's probably the only guy that I've ever worked with that I will openly bag on, but I still won't give you his name.
Hey, we got the app to download, so that's all we need.
That's it.
Oh, there's people saying names. I'm not going to pull that up, but people are saying there's people saying they want you down at the Door Slammers. Like you said, chasing Al Tucci around. I have a video that I did of Al Tucci just kind of being himself down at the Door Slammers, and if you ever want to get him backed up into a corner, bring in an alligator, a baby gator. And
he freaks out?
See that. Oh, the video, it's hilarious. He's like a little, I'll send you the link later to that video, but it's hilarious of him just kind of backing down into a corner. And he's like, no, man, like, nope. So if you ever want to settle him down, give you that tip there. One of my final questions is to you. For guys like Lee and I, that are going out to the track and trying to make it, trying to get business partners, and, invest in our future in this sport, what would you say, what motivation, like what would you tell us and other members out there in the media that are listening?
Man, I'll tell you what, at this moment, the drag race media side of things is kind of a hot mess. Like it really needs help. And it's bad. It's bad for the industry and the sport to not have a strong media base behind it. So those people that have the tenacity to keep going to the racetrack and actually doing things in a professional manner and applying themselves to do it will succeed. And ultimately it's going to help the sport. So I guess the only advice I can give you is like something that your dad would say would be like, don't half-ass it. Don't give up. And then the third part of it is you got to weigh what you want. So that was always, for me doing a lot of this stuff, it was always like, did I want to necessarily work like 40 something weekends a year? Maybe not some years, but I knew where I wanted to end up and I knew what I wanted to do. And I saw what the prize was. So you got to keep the eyes fixed on the prize. It's the oldest saying in the book, but that's reality. And if you do that and you take risks, not necessarily over the top risks, but you take risks to place yourself in the position to succeed, that's how you do this. There's no magic in it. There really isn't. I can tell you personally, we've had this conversation now for a half hour. You can tell I'm not the smartest guy in the room, but I will absolutely outwork anybody who wants to try to outwork me. I'll do that because I know I can do that. And that's really what the attitude has to be. If you're trying to break into drag racing media, you're trying to make a name for yourself in the sport, you're trying to do that, the only option you have, unless you were super brilliant, which was never my forte, is to simply outwork everybody. And that old analogy of work when people are sleeping is exactly 100% true. When we started Bang Shift in 2008, I was writing that stuff overnight after I got home. Like Henry Ford started Ford Motor Company at night. He was an engineer for Edison. He went home at night, worked on his stupid little car. Well, guess what? The stupid little car ended up changing the world. So the reality of the situation is, if you're a young person trying to bust into drag racing media, have some semblance of a plan, not the whole plan, but know where you want to end up, and simply don't stop until you get there. It's the only advice I can give you.
Sam, there's only one problem with all that he said for you and me. He also mentioned professionalism.
Yeah.
Well, that's a relative term,
Yeah. Have you not seen some of these shows that complain?
Well, listen. In this perspective, Lee wears a yellow shirt because he's probably got mustard all over it. But if you wear the yellow shirt, nobody knows. That's professionalism. It's all relative. It's all relative.
There you go. There you go. Well, look, man, I want to ask kind of the opposite of that. That was the positive, the advice. How do you handle negativity? It is amazing to me the people that will chime in on announcers or media individuals that have never been in front of a camera. They've never wrote anything in their lives. They have no ability whatsoever to do that, but yet they're willing to chime in and give their 2 cents. So how do you personally deal with any negativity that is thrown your way?
It is a learned skill. There's no other way for me to tell you that, but I can tell you that it is a learned skill. And it was probably the big lesson for me in having the job that I have now. Probably the biggest lesson for me in having the job I have now was learning that skill, because your natural instinct is to defend yourself, right? No matter what it is, your natural instinct is to defend yourself. And so you really have to find a place, which is, I guess for me, you find a place where you just, when you leave the racetrack, you know you did the best job you could, and that's what it is. I really don't have any problems anymore with that. I mean, listen, I call Mondays my internet whitewater rafting ride, because Mondays is where I get every freaking Yahoo in the book sending me crazy. I could send you some of these emails that I get. You guys would not believe some of the stuff people say. You would not believe it. It is unbelievable. But you just, I mean, to me, it's just like, I'm not going to say I'm impervious to it anymore, because no one's impervious to anything. But what I will say is that if you believe in what you're doing, and you know that you're doing your job to the satisfaction of the people you work for, to the constituency that you have to speak to, then that's all you need to know. If you're going to be a writer, you're going to have comments on stories, and half of them will probably be negative. If you're going to be if you're going to produce video content, you're going to have comments on videos. A lot will be negative, because people just like to sling the dookie around. That's fine. But when you talk to 2 million people at the Gator Nationals on Sunday afternoon, there's a few of them that are going to have something to say. Even if they've never watched a race before, they'll have a reason to say something to you. I can tell you that I sleep fine. I sleep fine because I'm confident in my ability. I'm confident in my preparation. I'm confident in the shows that we're producing. So, but I will tell you this, for most of the first year, that was a super hard thing to swallow. Like, it was a super hard thing to swallow, not because I felt like I did a bad job, but because you naturally want people to like what you're doing. And there's a percentage of people that are just never going to like what you're doing. And once you kind of learn that, you move ahead. I read a lot of stoicism, the Stoic philosophy. Is honest to God, it's helped me a lot. I've been reading that for years. And, there's a lot of great stuff in that line of thought and that line of thinking that I apply to myself and apply to my kind of mentality in this job. So I would just say this: if you truly believe in what you're doing and truly understand where you're trying to get, just don't listen to it. That's the best advice I can give you.
Sam, I think we have one last question for Mr. Lohnes.
It's about that time. If you have another sip, I advise you to take that last sip now. Oh, throw it back. There you go. For everybody out there, double tap and throw it back. If you ever get a Snapchat, don't forget that. That's a real thing. Seriously, I ref hockey, and that's a thing on the Fridays. It's double tap and throw it back. But So remember that, Brian.
Okay.
But do you have any dirt to inform us? Dirt, the gritty, the grime on this guy that you may have worked for. And I believe his name, Lee, you can take it away, is
Bobby Bennett.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
Oh, my God.
This sounds positive.
Is this just how long does the show run? Is this the internet? We go for as long as...
Take your time. Take your time.
I can go until like 10:40 a.m. tomorrow morning.
Hey, I may not be here, but I will still listen.
All right, so let me go back in my mental archives, and I'm just going to kind of talk myself through this whole thing because the year was 2005 when I worked full time for Bobby at Comp Plus, doing all kinds of stuff, traveling around, working with him, writing all kinds of feature stories, and also working with Josh Hernandez and the Pro Mod team doing their PR stuff and everything else. God, I'm trying to think of a good one here. I'm trying to think of an actual good one here that isn't totally like implicating him in some sort of a crime or anything of that nature. God, there are so many freaking stories of just going places and doing not like dumb things, but just doing stuff. I mean, staying in, when I'm saying that we stayed in some third class hotels, I mean, strong third class hotels. That was probably the major thing. When we would travel, it would be like, it's like, well, this appears to be someone's home address. It's like, oh no. No, we're pulling up to someone's house. I guess we're just staying here. Hopefully they know we're coming, or maybe we're sleeping in the car in the driveway. It was a very cool place to be involved with and associated with at the time because it was on the rise. And it was kind of the not ready for primetime players at that point. Roger Richards could still, move around without the assistance of an electric scooter. At that point, he was still very, very spry and mobile. Bobby was way more svelte. He had some very unfortunate facial hair, maybe some frosted tips at the time. I think that also was part of the whole program then at that point. I remember him busting my chops about overuse of commas, and that kind of hurt my feelings at one point. I'm just trying to think of stuff that isn't. I don't know. Listen, I will tell you a boatload of stories without the internet watching. How about that? That's the best I can do. That's the best I can do. That's
fair enough.
All right. Enough. I'm finding you at Norwalk. I want to know. So.
Yep. I will be there. Find the TV compound. I will give you the grand tour, and I will give you the dirt.
Very cool. Very cool. Well, Brian, look, man, we have thoroughly enjoyed it. I know everyone else has as well. We are going to bid you good night.
Fantastic, guys. Thanks for having me on. It was a lot of fun. And also, yes, I must say this. You made me a bunch of money tonight because the over-under on DraftKings of my first Power Hour episode appearance was 51. So this is episode 31. I bet heavy on the under. So you guys made me a pile of cash tonight. So thank you so much for that.
Great. Add more. He got more cash than we do. So there you go.
Thanks, fellas.
All right. We hope to see you and talk with you soon.
You bet.
Lee, put us in the right place before someone says it in the comments.
Gotta switch it over.
The good old switcheroo. Hey, man. Woo! And see, he told us some stuff, but he said, he'll tell us more later. So that means after he tells us, maybe we'll have to have one of these, a get off of my track moment.
Get off my track moment, yes. But you know what it does confirm? It confirms that there is dirt.
There is. And you know what else? Hey, I know he's not on here anymore, but you know what else this confirms? Mm-hmm. There's a chance that maybe, he might like us. Who knows? He said we'll have to get together and talk about this later. So we never know what comes of it. Hey.
Yeah. Or either there's some, vindictive revenge out on Bobby. One of the two.
Yeah, who knows?
You never know. No, folks, we love Bobby. We're just continuing that on as a running show joke, as it were, to have some dirt on him. Bobby has given us a great opportunity, and we are definitely glad to be right here talking with such individuals as Davies with Constant Aviation and Brian Lohnes himself, the voice of the NHRA on Fox. And, man, it is always good to co-host with you, Slammin Sam. Great show once again, man.
Yeah, man, always another great show. Lee, you've got a show on Thursday nights.
Yes, I do.
Live show on like Facebook. It's on YouTube, on all this different stuff. Tell us about your show, man.
Yeah, Between the Slicks, we talk about everything drag racing, from the crew people to the media, to drivers, to crew members. Doesn't matter who they are. If they're involved in drag racing, we will talk with them on Between the Slicks. That's on the Monday Morning Racer platform, YouTube, Twitter, and Facebook. You can also follow me on Instagram. On Thursday nights, 8 p.m. This week, we have John Montecalvo on. Yes, the Mountain Motor Pro Stock champion. He will be on. We'll be talking with him about Mountain Motor Pro Stock, Extreme Pro Stock, and the PDRA. Also, though, we will be talking about the development of Long Island, Long Island, New York, and drag racing. Some big news out of Long Island. Mikey, man, yes, great to talk to you Sunday there at New England Nationals at Epping, New Hampshire. It was great to talk to you. Thank you for coming up. So, Sam, look, he comes up to me. I'm waiting to interview Terry Haddock. Haddock had a really good day, and he's like, "Hey, Mr. Stevie Wonder Amish guy, can I talk to you?" And I'm like, "Yes, you can. Come on," And we had a good little chat. And
it's always
folks, look, if you're out there at the track, you see me, you see Sam. We're more than willing to talk to you guys. We're fans. Guys, I'm nothing but a fan that maybe has gotten further and got some access and been able to live out a part of a dream. But, man, I am a fan. And I know what it's like to be behind the rope, and I know what it's like to want to have a little bit more insider glimpse, as it were. If you're out there, I'm more willing to talk to you, and I know Sam is too.
Yeah, that's always awesome to see when someone sounds, says something or sounds off with your name, Slammin Sam. I hear that quite often. So it's kind of cool. Oh, Lee's drinking the red Solo cup again. But if you guys ever see Lee and I at any event, please, if you want to take a picture, we're more than welcome to do that. Talk about the show. Yep. Give us your input. We are growing in this sport, and Lee hit the nail right on the head. Is we are fans first and foremost. We are fans. We want to make this into our career. We've got a great opportunity here, like he mentioned, and we are just rolling with the punches, learning, ducking and diving a little bit as I'm learning from Frank Hawley. But hey, we're all doing it in fun. We have great guests. We get to talk to people like Brian Lohnes on this show. I mean, someone that I can consider my idol, that I look up to. So it's always awesome to have that connection and have that connection with you guys. If you see us, scoot us out of the way. That way you can get to the front of the rope and get that interview or that, that picture, that time with the driver. Scoot us out of the way. We're more than willing to help you with that. Lee, you talked about your show. I'm going to talk about mine. That is Outlaw Performance ENT brings you this great podcast called In the Groove. We talk about everything from circle track racing, go-karting, kids racing, NHRA, and everything in between. This week, I'm hoping to have a guy who was in a kind of nasty rollover a couple of weeks ago to talk about the safety features of head and neck restraints and what it's like inside these cars, these high horsepower dirt track cars in the IMCA circuits. But you can find me, Outlaw Performance ENT, on YouTube, on Facebook. Slammin Sam is my personal page. If you ever want to see what I'm doing, what I'm eating, what I'm traveling to, Slammin Sam is that. If you ever need car parts, Mad Bro Motorsports, that's my other business. I can sell you any race parts you need. But like I said, Outlaw Performance ENT on all your major platforms. So yeah, Lee, it's been another great show. But Roger did just check in.
I saw that. I was wondering if he was watching.
He says he doesn't need the scooter.
He doesn't. I don't need the scooter.
There you go.
For the record, he's chiming in after Brian. Hey, young whippersnapper. I'm not quite there yet. I don't need the scooter. But
he's smart with this. He's a smart man.
Right.
I can find one of those bird scooters and travel around. I might pay Roger a little dinero to keep my bird scooter in his van.
I tell you, man, there's times I'm walking around the pits and I'm thinking to myself, why am I not as smart as Roger Richards and have something to ride around in the pits in? You know, I mean, throw it on one of the teams that are there all the time and have something to roll on for sure.
Wow. He took it there.
Wow.
Sammy. Yeah. Okay.
Before we're in trouble and we don't have a show, I think we need to go on here, folks. Great show. Thank you for being a part of it. Sam, thank you, man. Thank you.
Yes. You guys, to wrap up the show like we always do, don't forget Competition Plus Power Hour right here. The Power Hour is on all your major platforms. So send us an email at powerhourcp@gmail.com if you've got any questions for future guests. We're going to try and get track prep crews on and teams track analysts and different things like that for you guys. Get some more crew chiefs on here. So if you guys want to see anyone or have any ideas, please email us, powerhourcp@gmail.com. You can listen to all these back on all your major podcast forums, and that is under the Power Hour at Competition Plus. Please, again, thank you guys for tuning in. Thank you to Bobby Bennett. Thank you to the Monday Morning Racer. Thank you to Elon Warner, who schedules all of these guests for us. We can't do it without you guys, and we appreciate them for doing all that in the background and giving us this great opportunity to talk to you guys every Tuesday. And guess what, guys? Lord willing, we will be back next Tuesday to talk to you about anything racing. You guys keep living, keep smiling, and don't forget to whack that gas pedal. Until next time, I'm Slammin Sam and the Monday Morning Racer, and this is the Competition Plus Power Hour, and we are signing out. Peace.